Hey everyone, and welcome to Co-Creating with AI, formerly known as CoCast. And with me here today is my good friend Rasmus. My name is Martin. We are founders of Multiply and AI lovers. How are you today, Rasmus?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm really well. I love the weather, super sunny when looking out from the inside, and super cold outside. And I think that's just beautiful and cheering me up.
Yeah, I had a lovely walk to preschool with my daughter in the snow, like sledding instead of having like the stroller.
Oh,
Did some
nice.
sledding in the morning, so it's nice.
Cool. Awesome. So, what's going on in the AI world?
Yeah, I mean a lot. It's nuts to be honest.
Yes.
It's really evolving at the pace where it's hard to keep up. I feel,
Yeah.
even though I actually intentionally spend a lot of time on Twitter just to stay like abreast with what's happening.
Hmm.
But I mean, the biggest thing since we um, recorded our last episode, which was a little while back, and now we sort of caught up with the release schedule, is definitely GPT, right? And
Hmm.
even more so, the release of their their API for
Hmm.
ChatGPT,
Hmm.
and how quickly that has been integrated into existing solutions, and also, I mean, the just sheer amount of new solutions being developed and released, and the amount of funding going into them. It's
Yes.
it's I mean it's I don't even think it's a hype cycle, but I mean if you're going to look at it that way, it's the quickest um, start of a VC and startup funding and launching cycle ever. I think. I mean I
Hmm.
haven't been around for that long, right? But it makes sense. That's what I hear commenters saying as well. And it makes sense because ChatGPT has been the quickest growing consumer product, I think, of all time by far to get to like first a million users and then 100 million users.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, that's kind of my general view, I think. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I see it the same. We're recording this in the beginning of March 2022, and sorry, 2023.
2023.
It's now. Yeah. And generative AI, especially text, is taking over the world, both our private lives and work and school. I see, like my daughters report that some classmates have ChatGPT open every class they're in, and just continuously chatting with, and actually staying on topic, like using it for school to learn more about what the teacher is actually talking about. And
That's
I see,
amazing.
yeah, it is. And like if kids in Sweden are using it, then kids everywhere are. And I really think that it's a big change in how we relate to um, knowledge and learning in general. And and I think it's fitting with the new name of the podcast, Co-Creating with AI. And I think we were onto something from the start there, because I really see that as key to understanding what's going on now. That we're not abandoning things, no work is disappearing to AI, and and it's just that we are starting to co-create with AI.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like this the speed of the way AI makes its entrance into our lives has definitely surprised me, and I think many. Now that we reach this kind of tipping point with first GPT-3 and then with the consumerization of that, of course, with improvements on top right with ChatGPT. Um, it's a little bit like, you had AI be a man behind the curtains, for a lot of things. Right? We know it's like a Facebook feed and Google ads and everything is AI, right? There's so much stuff that's AI, and I mean, these drone swarms that people have seen do cool things for a bunch of years. That's also AI, right? In many ways. But the interesting thing here now, on top of co-creation, is it's almost like AI stepped out of the box and became a person, like a
Hmm.
co-creator.
Hmm.
It's like, all right, now I'm actually talking to Chat GPT and having a conversation, right? And
Hmm.
in my tools, say Notion, most, I think, significantly, but also in, I mean, Microsoft has done some at least cool demos. I haven't tried it out myself. Um, it's a lot more like, okay, now you used to have the paperclip, but now it's actually alive.
Yeah.
It's like a person there. It's a co-creator, it's a co-worker, it's an entity, um, that is um, that is available and interacting with us, or at least that we can interact with. Uh, Early innings, right? But I think it's a very, very significant shift, and why I fully agree with you that it's from the top, like the point of view of co-creation, that we can really understand this shift, I think.
Hmm. And also, there's a lot of innovation going on. The last thing I looked into yesterday was, or the latest thing saw was a project called Backend GPT, which came out of a Chat GPT hackathon,
Yeah.
and where they're just, instead of allowing or using the AI to code, they just replaced all the code with the LLM. And I think use cases like that are going to move into actual usefulness over the next few months as well.
Mm.
And um, and I also see two different phenomena happening. Like, one is the startups that are very thin wrappers around the OpenAI APIs, and or wrappers around open source projects like LangChain. There's, for example, one Mac application called Embra. I think you sent me the link,
Yeah.
which is basically very thin wrapper around LangChain, where one of the things they tout as an innovation is just to visualize the internal thinking process of LangChain, and the tools that LangChain selects for or allows um, the AI to select to use as part of producing an answer. Bing Chat is doing the same, being transparent with, now to produce an answer for you, I'm searching for this term and I'm searching for this phrase, and that's also a way to keep the user entertained while producing an answer,
Yeah.
because it still takes some time. But and I think those are really two different categories of services appearing now: the thin wrappers around API, and where services where the API is integrated and providing a new framework or interface to an existing service, like Bing or Notion and Coda releasing their offerings in AI. So that's
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, go for it. No, go for it.
Yeah. So that's um, what is most prevalent for me now. Like, where is the real innovation happening? Is it in larger companies with the existing services, or is it in smaller companies that are not sort of burdened by um, the previous by previous code bases and user expectations?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I've actually been surprised by um, how quickly existing services have been able to get, I mean, ChatGPT primarily, I'd say, um, to really integrate well with their current offerings. Like, I've been actually quite impressed with, for example, how Notion, you can ask it to, summarize something in a table, and it creates a Notion table in there. I was really impressed with like how quickly they got it to that, you know, um, well working state. But I guess that's also like one of the benefits of it coming via an API, right? It's very clearly defined, like how you can utilize it, and then of course they have um, APIs for their own platform, so they can just connect that. But I think it's going to be like two things, right? So I would say that existing services that have some kind of deeper value already, that need to bring in these new capabilities because it will be expected. And I think there will be some first mover advantages there, but I almost think that it will be more like a hygiene bar in a few years, that you need to have a good natural language type interaction or interface with most products, that people will start expecting it. Like, you need a mobile app to really be a relevant, service. That's
Hmm.
that's just the way it is, right? For most products out there. And then if you look at this like Cambrian explosion of new thin wrappers, I'd probably say actually it's too early to judge. But I mean, a very good way to start a startup is to have a thin something, a small MVP, right? So if they just start in a good enough angle where this new paradigm of these large language models enables something new, and they start with thin wrapper, and then they can continue moving that curve, and that will take them somewhere fundamentally different than existing offerings within their category, or completely new offerings. I mean, uh, you know, do a photo shoot of yourself online was not a service.
Hmm.
That is a very easy service now. Upload a few pictures and you get a photo shoot in like, wherever, really, on the beach, in the mountains, I don't know. You can do so many things, right? That was not that's a completely new category of product in digitally, because it replaces the physical need to do a photo shoot, right?
Hmm.
Um, so my bet is actually that this, in general, like on average, whatever you want to say, this is not a hype cycle. I think there's a lot of really like new types of products that are coming out.
Hmm.
How
I
about
think
you?
so
What do
too.
you think about this? Yeah.
Yeah, and where I see that there are where innovation is lacking right now is basically in the ability for uh, companies to, or it's very difficult for companies to find the balance between creating a deep user value and getting to market very quickly. And I think that what we're seeing now is the burst of startups that have chosen a quick market entry. And I think that there are also an equal amount of startups that are working behind the scenes to create the deeper value. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about both seeing what's coming out now and then also following up what's going ahead. And I actually loved, for example, when companies use LangChain now as their foundation of their offering. That it means for them that there's a huge amount of influx of value into that open source project. Lots of
Mm,
developers engaging.
yeah.
So basing having that as core means that you get sort of a virtual developer team working on the core while you can
Yeah.
keep improving the user experience of your thin wrapper and
Mm,
still have depth in the end of the user
mm,
experience.
mm,
And what is so cool about LangChain is that it creates an inner life for the AI, that it actually thinks before it speaks. And I think that's one flaw of how many people think about AI, that um, you expect a great answer from the start. And what LangChain does is to allow the AI to access tools and a short term and a long term memory, to both have a more complex inner state and also have the ability to bring in information and doing calculations. Actually, one tool available in LangChain is for allows the AI to quickly write some Python code, execute it, and then report the answer back as part of
mm.
what they're answering. So
Wow.
if the AI assumes that the code will produce a better answer, or it needs to code to produce an answer, you can actually provide it with such a tool.
Wow.
And just like I can imagine a great user experience with where that is the core. Just I'm asking the AI questions and I see it producing code to give me the answer.
Mm,
It would be awesome. But
yeah.
um, and the other one, the other deficiency I see right now, is that we as users are not expecting that we have to iterate and that AI doesn't have to learn. We expect the AI to be really good at coding out of the box, but we don't expect an infant baby to already know how to code. we put them through 9 or 12 years of school, and then we teach them to code. And we can actually, I think that what we can see a ChatGPT as is that infant baby that have learned to talk, and we can teach it how to read books and how to learn things from existing knowledge. And it's already read a lot of books, but it hasn't structured that into any other way than just to form a brain that can think and produce language. And then giving it structure on how to access tools, access programming environments to properly code and iterate on code is, I think, the next step for AI as a tool for humans.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it will come back to. I mean, I agree that the my basic understanding of these new LLMs is we were able to make them smart, like generally smart and generally able to learn primarily, right? We touched upon this earlier, I think, in an earlier episode. And it became smart by ingesting a lot of knowledge to form its neural pathways, so to say, if we're going to take the brain analogy. Um, but now it sort of needs to become wise as well. You know, how to use knowledge, how to reason, how to use tools, which is kind of embodied experience or embodied intelligence, right? Which is interesting because the the first wave of AI, I think, like I don't know, it was 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, was very much like trying to create, you know, logic trees and like how to think well. I think there's a term for it, but I'm not sure what it is. And like my gut feel is that will come back, right? So now we have the raw intelligence, and now all these wrappers on top, and these, you know, LangChain is an amazing example. Means that we add some kind of wisdom or experience or embodied intelligence. I'm not sure what the right word is yet. Maybe
Mm.
several of them on top of that, and that leads to really, really amazing outputs and capabilities. Um, and I think on the topic of like deeper tech kind of AI startups that are not going as quickly to a consumer product. I mean, I think we mentioned Adept in an earlier episode, like
Mm.
going all in with like, I don't know if it was $500 million or whatever they got to teach one of these, like, or create maybe a large language model or read it, or teach an existing one to use all the software in the world.
Mm.
And that's, you know, yeah, I mean that's really a next level kind of implication on what that could do, right? Then it's a generalized knowledge worker almost, in many ways.
And I think that the shift from machine learning and that kind of computational like, where um, computational projects where you work a lot with numbers to produce a result, to set pricing models for hotels, or detect anomalies in vibrations to do preemptive um, preemptive service on trucks that are on the road constantly. That those kinds of AI projects will also start to benefit from language models, large language models. Now they sort of get another uh, tool in their toolbox to produce more produce automation on top of the data um, computations that they're already doing. And what you mentioned about embodied, like the research in embodied experience is so vastly um, goes back so vastly further in time. Like the attempts that have been made to get a AI driven robots, sorry, robots to manage to navigate human environments, like picking up Coke cans in an office,
Mm,
or just being working as industrial robots and navigating in industrial space, or the robots that are used by Amazon to do inventory management, and an immense amount of other e-commerce logistics now. And those will also over time be augmented about the semantic reasoning that an LLM can provide.
Yeah, I actually saw a couple of things about that. Like one was a demo from Microsoft with a robot, I think, that you could talk with, and it responded both verbally and physically. And the other one was, I think it was a research paper just released from DeepMind or Google Brain, um, where you like it really could learn to navigate like the physical environment by like using one of these LLMs. I think it was their Llama or something. Um, Maybe that was Facebook. Anyhow,
Mm.
wrong name probably. Um, but anyhow, it could sort of look at a couple of pictures, see what's different. You could ask it questions about the picture, and it could answer it. And of course that's very transferable to the physical world, right? So yeah, I think this is probably the biggest hypercharger across industries, like ever, is this capability of intelligence in
Mm.
a digital format. And like, I mean, that makes so much sense. And it looks like it's, again, not the hype cycle in the sense that it is an accelerator across, platforms, across industries.
Yeah.
And that actually sort of makes me a bit question what I said before on like hygiene versus competitive edge and first mover advantage. I actually think that it's quite likely, now that I think about it, that we have the Cambrian explosion of new stuff, right? And but then on the other side of that is the increased competition and Darwinian destruction or extinction event that
Mm.
comes from that. So I think it might be a combined Cambrian explosion and I don't know what the right historical like or geological reference is here, but an extinction event, right?
Yeah.
Jurassic, maybe, I don't know. When
Mm.
did the dinosaurs die? Um,
Mm. And I think one indicator of that is that the or sorry, rather an indicator of that the dinosaurs actually have an opportunity to transform into a new era is that the thin wrappers around the AI APIs that are creating the most value are the ones that are tapping into our repositories of knowledge. The ones that work together with the code base that our developers have, or the ones that are built on top of um, Notion and Coda that are able to reason based on the information that is already stored in there. I think they are the ones that are doing best. And another example is there's an AI app framework called Dust that have released an assistant called XP1, which just uses the all the browser tabs that I've open at the moment. So I can write prompts that use information from any tab I have open,
hmm.
and just that slight advantage of being able to use information and or make information addressable that I already have, and I don't have to copy paste it into the chat with an AI. Just we are at the level where that gives a slight advantage over the competition, where you can, if you can leverage data that is pre-existing, allow the AI to access it where the data lives rather than copy pasting data into a conversation. That's where we are in innovation right now, like just a raw data access, finding innovative ways of interfacing the AI with our repositories of knowledge. I think that's where the core of current innovation is at the moment.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually on that. Like those 2 points. I'll take the last one first. Like, and also tying it back to where we started. So we have this new co-creator, right? AI that is in many ways hyper intelligent in many specific ways. And it's like having an extremely smart friend who's always there. Like
Mm.
if you don't work with him or her, like then like you're not you're not really doing it right. And the interesting thing is, since everyone now will have access to this super smart coworker, co-creator, both on an individual and a corporate level, whoever does not like will really fall behind. So I think like if you look at like the historical 10x developer, that some agree is there, is not, but I really think there will be like a 10x, 100x, everything, everyone now, marketeer, um, entrepreneur, developer, whatever the role, like the people who can work with AI and co-create with them, like the real co-creators, will be 10, 100x more productive and be able to create so much more value. But that also is the flip side of those who can't compete either on
Mm.
an individual or corporate level.
Mm.
So there's really, I think, if you look at like, I mean, we already talked about the corporate side, right? Maybe an extinction event over the next 5, 10, 15 years, but also on the job market, right? I think that kind of um, the necessity to learn, or they have a word for this, right? Continuous learning, reskill yourself, will be for pretty much everyone across every industry. Uh, the good thing though is that it's natural language, right? So it's very accessible.
Yeah.
It's very accessible. It just requires a little bit of humility that I used to have to do this, and now, yeah, I don't have to anymore, and then I can spend my time elsewhere. And you probably need to be more creative in how you work with AI, how you co-create. Yeah, I actually think co-creation might be like the core skill of the future. I'm not at all like talking our
Yeah.
own book, right?
Awesome. And I think we're coming up to the point where we're going to round off and leave the listener to perhaps progress to the next episode if you're listening to this in hindsight. So, Rasmus, do you have any conclusions before we round off, or anything else to send to the listener?
No, I think those were the key things. Maybe just like the one last reflection on your on talking about the corporate side and the tools. I think you're really right on like the data sources will be extremely valuable. They used to say data is the new oil, right? But I
Yeah.
think now we will discover that wow, it really was. And those companies who have those will have real competitive moats. But I
Mm.
think unless you do that, I think it's going to be quite hard to compete with these fast-moving new AI first products across industries, because they might be vastly cheaper, faster, better, quite quickly, and the speed that they can move will be very very high. And also like because I think it will be the companies building AI first product will probably also be AI first people, which means they will be 10x, 100x people in a few years, right?
Yeah.
And organizations. So it's competing not only on the product and towards the end user in the offering, it's also in like the execution and organization of how you get shit done. So
Mm.
it's like a double whammy. And yeah, I'm going to really look forward to explore that. We're actually fun to bring on some guests who are at the forefront of this. Let's look into that.
Yeah. Definitely. Let's do that.
How about you? Do you have any last reflections?
No, I just want to encourage people to look into, if you haven't already, but if you're a listener to the podcast, this podcast specifically, then you probably are interested in AI already. But look into um, the tools that are coming out now that actually allows you to interface with your existing knowledge repositories, because that's where AI really shines, where you don't have to copy paste everything into ChatGPT, but it actually is right there for the AI to leverage. So that's my a send off, I think.
Yeah, I'll take that advice. I haven't tried Dust.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Rasmus. Thank you
thanks.
to our dear listener as well for tuning in. And let's talk more about AI in the next episode.